All right, we are going to move on next to our next topic, which is economic development. And we will start with you, Lisa. How do you preserve Mountain View's character and socioeconomic diversity while allowing progress and innovation?
I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that so far. Mountain View is certainly, dare I say, the most attractive city for people to put their businesses. But I think we've done a pretty good job of maintaining the character so far. Certainly when it comes to the character of the residential neighborhoods, making sure that new development is a good fit with them, that's been very important to me. I have pushed back hard on new development to make sure it is a good fit and it's high quality so that it really does maintain the character. But I kind of feel like Mountain View has the problem of too many people wanting to come here. And so, you know, we are being a little bit selective, I think, because there just isn't enough space for everyone who wants to be here to come here.
Okay. Jim?
So basically, we have an issue here where we have people who have been here for a while, and then we've got the invasion of the Transformers. Now, I'm not talking about the robots, but I'm talking about people who want to turn Mountain View into Manhattan. And I don't want to see Mountain View become that. And so the basic way that we keep the character of the city is by not having these changes come too quickly. If you look at the report that was issued to the City Council back in April of this year, you'll see that there's something like over 70 projects in the works right now for housing and for office, and that's just for the next couple of years. And we're basically going to use up every bit of developable space that is in that's in the general plan for 2030 within a couple of years. So the way we maintain the character is to slow things down and to make sure that we develop where we can, when we can, and do it smart.
Okay,
Can
thank
you
you.
repeat the question, please?
Yes. How do you preserve Mountain View's character and socioeconomic diversity while allowing progress and innovation?
Right. So part of this question revolves around pay, and I support a raise to the minimum wage that has to balance the needs of the employees as well as the employers to operate a sustainable business. I also support the development of affordable housing and viable transit options that will allow employees of all levels and skill sets to work in Mountain View and to live in Mountain View. So I'm not talking about the physical nature of Mountain View right now. I'm just trying to talk about the social economic character of Mountain View right now. I think it's very important, and the Chamber can have a role in this in terms of supporting the hiring of local people who live in Mountain View to work in one of the things the Chamber does very well is a business-to-business mixer. And we can have the Chamber put together some type of a work forum so that our local businesses would find local employees to work there.
Okay, thank you. Mercedes?
So for me, it's requiring prevailing wage for developments. It's increasing the minimum wage so people can continue to live here. It's protecting small businesses so they can continue to grow and thrive. And the Chamber knows, you know, is on the front lines. There's businesses, one person, mom and pop kind of businesses, and then we have global businesses, multinational companies, and we have to think about all of them. So it's really important to protect the small business owner as well. And that is something that I'm very concerned about.
Okay, thank you. Pat?
Well, this is another one that has a lot of different answers to it. I'm going to go for talking about the socioeconomic one as well as services. I think that it's really important for us to do our part to raise the minimum wage. The City Council recently asked staff to do an investigation of what the minimum wage was going to be in surrounding communities, because it's very difficult to have sort of a checkerboard of that sort of regulation. It's much better if it's standardized. We can certainly support prevailing wages. one of the things that most people treasure about Mountain View is our diversity, so it's really important. Another thing I think that's important that came up on the Planning Commission quite a bit is making sure that there's a diversity of services here. People want to be able to get their car fixed, we want to be able to buy groceries, we want to be able to go to the movies, all those things. We want to make sure that that mix is maintained.
Okay, thank you. Lenny?
I think it was Yogi Bear who said nobody goes there anymore because it's too crowded, and that's really our problem. And you know, I've talked to Google management about the problem of the growth that we're having here, and they agree with me on the need for housing in North Bayshore. They don't agree with my suggestion that they move a lot of their growth to San Jose or other locations. We've got to do both, and that's key to our future. It's also important. I've been studying Silicon Valley since before it was called Silicon Valley. The key to our economic growth is education and environment. We create the climate where people from all over the world, smart people from all over the world, hardworking people from all over the world want to live. And that's what I think we have to do. And getting back to where we started, we need to have housing or these companies can't survive.
Okay, thank you. Greg?
Yeah. Yes, I see ourselves in a transitional period. Talking with a number of younger people at, I do tabling for Stevens Creek Trail, and I run into a lot of people that have crafted their lives where they don't need cars, or they don't want cars. They can't, in some cases, they can't afford cars because they're spending so much money on their housing. But the younger generation seems to be more preferable of a more urbanized environment where they can walk to where they want to go, where they have all the amenities that they want close to where they live. We got to get away from this idea of you work in one place, you live in another, and you shop in yet another place. We're looking more, trying to transition more to these urban village centers. And then the whole issue of economic diversity, where we have to consider the minimum wage and the below market rate housing, because we're driving out the people that are in our service class that cut our lawns and fix our cars, and our policemen and firemen and so forth. Thank you.
Okay. Margaret?
Yes. I think that what we are certainly needing to raise the minimum wage, and we also want to look at not only the low and the very low income number of people in our area, but also the nurses and the public safety officers that we have here, and our teachers, because what a pity that our own teachers can't live in our community. So I think we have a broad range to take a look at, and to maintain the character of all of that, we want all of those wonderful people to be a part of this community and make it grow. So I think we need to focus on how can we make sure that the types of housing we can provide will be one that all of us can live in.
Okay, thank you. Ellen?
I think what makes Mountain View special is the character of the city. In my family's history, it's been a welcome and inclusive place, and I think a way to tackle the socioeconomic diversity question is to think about not only millennials, working families, and seniors who may be struggling to stay in the city, but how do we preserve that feeling that the city's a city with a small town feel. Ways to accomplish that, I think, are, as has been mentioned, looking at the minimum wage, protecting small businesses, but also trying to be creative in terms of programs that the city has to reach out to all residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Okay, Greg, come back to you here and for a rapid fire question. So the question is, would you give us a specific example of a public-private partnership that you would foster as a city council member?
Yes, I would definitely look at some below market rate housing. We're critically short of that, and as the federal government and the state government back away from that responsibility, and the burden is falling more heavily on the cities. We need to develop, and we have these, need to develop these public-private partnerships to make it feasible to deliver more below-market rate housing to the community to preserve this economic diversity that we were just talking about. And I see that as one avenue that we could use to affect that. As I say, the burden is falling on the cities. The federal government and the state are backing out of the subsidized affordable housing, whatever term you want to use, and it's falling on the cities. So the city's got to find ways of generating revenue. Public-private partnerships are a way of doing that. It's in the best interest of the corporations to have housing for their employees. They desperately need it.
Okay. Lenny?
Yeah, I would challenge employers, and I already have, to invest in community land trusts, which means a third party owns the land and middle-income people can enter the ownership market at a lower level of investment than they might otherwise have to make. They don't get all the appreciation because somebody else owns the land, but it helps them get started in the market, and it benefits the employers because their employees have a better chance to get the housing they need to get started in this community. There are a lot of young people working at these companies who want to put down roots in Mountain View. I don't really want to turn them away. I want to give them an opportunity.
Okay. Pat?
I think there's a lot of opportunities for public benefits to be done with private, public partnerships. I think the example of the overpass at Permanente Creek Trail is an excellent example. We've talked a lot about how we need to do improvements to our transportation system for biking and for pedestrians. I think there's lots of opportunities where public-private partnerships can be used to do that and can move things forward much more quickly. If you have a private individual who wants to make an improvement, and you can allow them to make improvements that have public benefit as an incentive to get a little more for their money, they're going to do it. They're going to want to do it. And then they're going to get the benefit of it after they've done it because it's going to be on their property. So I think these have a lot of power, and there's a lot of opportunities.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, Mercedes, another question here for you. What policies or actions would you advocate that would continue to attract businesses to the city?
So that's a really broad question. So let me try to just focus in on a couple of things. I think we have to make the city more attractive to smaller businesses as well as large businesses. We're blessed here. We're so blessed. I mean, the high-tech companies have really put Mountain View on the map. I mean, Mountain View has been around for over 110 years, and it's getting national, global attention now. But we have to create mechanisms that will help our small businesses thrive so they don't get priced out of living here. That's very important to me. And I believe that we can create partnerships with our global residents, like the Googles and Microsofts of the world, to come up with innovative solutions to keep that going.
Okay. Ken?
Can you please repeat the question?
What policies or actions would you advocate that would continue to attract businesses to the city?
Boy, we almost need the opposite in Mountain View. In an area where most people are complaining that the job-housing imbalance is out of whack because there's too many jobs, we are an example of an abundance of success. With respect to the small businesses, which is the lifeblood of American economy, Mountain View has been working on improving the permitting process and so forth, licensing and whatnot, for years, and it's actually quite successful. There's probably always room for improvement, and we were talking last night, and they're working on that right now. So I would just like to continue some of the efforts that have already been started. With respect to the big businesses, Mountain View is a hub for business development, and everybody wants to be here. So I don't think we need to improve any processes in that case right now, other than continue to welcome people as they arrive.
Okay. Jim?
I would say none. Basically, just as Ken said, everybody does want to be here. But one thing that I think is vitally important is that the small businesses that we have here, that we make sure that we treat them well and treat them properly. because there have been cases where the rules have been changed so that all of a sudden a business goes from being a legal business to a not legal business, or having to make massive changes through no fault of their own, just through a rules change. They say they expanded under one set of rules, then the rules change, and now because those rules have changed, they're out of compliance. Well, if you keep doing that, what business is going to want to locate in the city if they think that any time the city can change the rules and then all of a sudden they're out of compliance and they're in danger of going out of business? So I would say the best way to keep and attract businesses is to treat every business fairly.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Okay, Lisa, next question here. And it says, have you actually spoken, and I'll add this too, or are aware, with small businesses in the North Shoreline about the problems they may face or concerns they may have?
Yes, I am aware of the challenges that the businesses in North Bay Shore are facing. And it's a huge concern for us because, as many people have said, it is those small businesses that are the character of Mountain View and add so much to our vibrant economy here. So I don't know if we have a solution to that. Certainly there's been many things discussed, one of which is allowing those businesses to continue by having the companies that also provide those goods and services have their employees go there, and yet they pay for it. So it gives the employees some variety and also keeps the businesses in operation. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Ellen.
Thank you. Yes, we're aware. It's something I've heard on Planning Commission, and I think part of it is making those small businesses feel heard and understanding of the challenges that they face, which is wanting to make sure that they get the same car traffic to their businesses as well. And I think part of that is relationship building. So reaching out to them to try to come up with some solutions. I believe that we are in conversations, as was mentioned, but part of it is making sure that they feel wanted and valued, and part of that is a concern I know about rent and feeling that they may not be able to stay in that area, and really trying to come up with a way for them to be able to stay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ellen. Okay, Margaret?
I think in addition to what has already been said, I think we have an opportunity to really provide some extra support to those small businesses out there through maybe some more creative marketing, and to really attract people to come and support the businesses, and to look at the issues that they are facing and to work together with them to resolve them, and to just be creative. I don't think it's necessary for them to close their doors. I think they offer some really excellent services, and I think it's important for us as a community and as the character of Mountain View to look at ways we can help them solve their issues and be viable and be present in our community.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, next, Lenny, we'll start with you on this one. What projects in the pipeline would you support that could economically benefit the city?
Not too many right now, because we aren't doing the integrated planning that's necessary. One office development that I've supported is at 600 National in the midst of the Superfund plume, and I don't want to put residences there. But by and large, we've got a whole bunch of offices in the pipeline and very little residences, very few residences. So I would, if we're going to keep the gatekeeper process, we should allow it for residential development and let the offices wait. I sort of support the hotel at 750 Moffett, but I don't know why we have offices there too. We need a hotel, we need extended stay hotels, let's build them. Let's not create more problems by having more office employment.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, I was going to pick on the Gateway project as a possibility of benefit in the sense that there's a desperate need for a long-term stay hotel. I'm aware of a number of areas where there's a thing called G Suites that are popping up, which is basically Google coming in and renting for a very high price units in rental apartment buildings, and basically driving up the price and forcing out some of the tenants in those buildings. Just a thing that's going on. So I see that the need to satisfy the need for a basically short-term or long-term stay hotel is desperately needed.